Hi everybody. So, video number 3 for ground fighting in self-defense at Kaya this month. And what I'm going to share with you today are 3 common misconceptions or myths that surround grappling that have become very prevalent since the rise of like MMA and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu over the last 20 or 30 years. Now, the first one that we're going to talk about is one that was perpetuated by the infamous Gracie family, which really was just a promotional tool. And I touched on this in one of the other videos, which is that 90% of fights go to the ground. That statistic specifically relates to police officers in, I can't remember where in the US, that had to take people down specifically for handcuffing. So yes, 90% of those fights ended up on the ground because they had to restrain people. Violence happens within contexts, and not every context may end up on the ground. Some have higher percentage than others. If you're looking at sexual assault, for example, then yes, it may end up on the ground more often than 2 guys duking it out in a bar. But we want to avoid statistics like that. So no, 90% of fights not necessarily end up on the ground, and that's something we need to be aware of. Fights can end up on the ground, and we need to know what to do if we get there. That's number 1. Number 2 is kind of came from the opposing movement to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu when it became really popular, which was a lot of the kind of Krav Maga combative guys or strikers are going, you don't need to learn how to fight on the ground, you only need to learn how to defend takedowns, because we never want to be on the ground in self-defense. Now, it's true, we don't want to end up on the ground, but we may. Yes, we need to train takedown defense, no doubt about that. But we also need to know what happens when you land up on the ground, and being able to grapple efficiently, whether it's on the ground or standing up, is an incredibly valuable tool for your overall fighting arsenal. Okay, so 100% you need to learn how to defend yourself on the ground. Better if we don't get there and we want to train there, but we also need to prepare for that. The third one, and that's not just by Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but it's by a lot of grappling systems who say that they can teach techniques that will allow a small, weak person to defeat a bigger, stronger person. That's rubbish, okay? So, size absolutely 100% matters. That's why in every form of competition sport, where there are techniques from those styles, right, there are weight divisions. Remember that attributes always trump skill, or 99% of the time trump skill, right? If you've got a bigger, stronger person, they are likely to defeat a weaker, smaller person if all things are equal. So when does that become not equal? Well, a smaller person can defeat a bigger person if that smaller person is very, 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 very skilled. What does that mean? Right? If you have a small Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt who's been grappling for probably 10, 15 years, as opposed to a big white belt, yes, that black belt is probably going to wipe the floor with them. But that person has taken that time to develop those skills over, 10, 15 years. So it's really important to remember that. There are no magic bullets or solutions that will go, if you just do this, that bigger person, will be defeated. Grappling gives you some ability to combat that to a certain extent, and the learning curve in grappling is very steep, which is very good for us. But size absolutely matters when it comes to grappling and self-defense. Even more so on the ground. If you've ever rolled with somebody who is really, really, really big, even if they are not as good as you, it makes your life hard. Okay, so 3 myths around ground fighting and grappling and self-defense. It's important that we understand that so that we train the right way. With that in mind, as I said, grappling is super important. We need to know how to do it. Jump in and grapple.